say thank you, Rhonda, for just the invitation to be here. It's an honor to be asked to celebrate on your behalf this night, and to be here and to speak on your behalf in some ways about the fruit of your ministry within my diocese, or the Diocese of Dallas. It is definitively not something I was ready for when on April 23rd, not that anyone's counting, I was called into the diocese offices of the bishop and said, would you like to have a 3 o'clock meeting today with the bishop? Which sounded more like, you're going to have a 3 o'clock meeting today with the bishop. And I was sitting there at 8 a.m. as I was sitting in my room on my day off, I wonder what this is going to be about. And I walked into that meeting with about 1,000 different things I thought was going to be the ask. Not a single one of that list was, I want you to be the Vocations Director for the diocese. We had just changed the Vocation Director 2 years prior. That person was doing the job, and they were a friend of mine, and I thought they were doing a good job. But it got to the point where it was clear he had to go to a different role, and it was going to abdicate this role to someone else. Someone was going to have to fill it. And when he asked me to do the job, my first thought was, I have zero training in this. And that is something I know Rhonda has said multiple times through all of her interviews and through all of the things that she's gone through in promoting what Vocation Ministry does, which is equip us. Us vocation directors do not walk into seminary, hopefully, thanks be to God, hopefully we do not walk into seminary and say, I cannot wait to be the guy who recruits men into seminary. My first thought as a priest growing up, and as a seminarian that is growing up in the Diocese of Dallas, was, how fast can I get back to my home parish to serve those people? How fast can I get to them? Because they are my people. They're in the community. They're the ones who formed me into the man who got to say yes so long ago, and then got to be formed by the diocese. But that's not what we get to decide. Ministry is given to us by God himself, and through that, the bishop decides what that role is. And so, Vocations Ministry helps fill a gap that has existed in our church for a while. How do you train these men, and how do you prepare them to walk into a life and into a role they have zero means to do, other than the very grace of God that's being provided for the office? I walked into an office that had only received, in the last 4 years up until that point, about 8 men had come in. 6 of those men are still in right now, thanks be to God. They're still studying for the Diocese of Dallas in various levels of our formation program, but 8 men, 6 men over the course of that amount of time is nothing in the Diocese of Dallas. We have 1.4 million Catholics across 74 parishes, averaging around 10,000 people per parish. Our largest church brings in 15,000 people for Christmas and Easter Masses. And it's seen as just a normal thing. They're just ready for it. They anticipate it. But we don't have the clergy, and we don't have the support coming in after the fact. And the Office of Vocations' main responsibility is to help fill that gap. And so when I was looking for a strategy and asking myself, where am I supposed to go with this? What am I supposed to do? The Diocese of Austin was my first reach out, because they were the ones that had most recently worked with Rhonda and her team. And so I asked Father Greg Gearhart, I said, what is it that they do? What am I asking them to come in and do? And he said, you're asking them to come in and support your priests. You're asking them to come in and to give a direction that, and a professional face to a direction that you as a priest can do, but will be received significantly better and work significantly better if it's her. And that's exactly what we did. When we started working with Rhonda's team, I had some things I wanted to do, and she had things that she was asking me to do. And between those two things, we started a plan, and we started building a plan out as to what are we going to approach this with? How are we going to start building the culture of vocations back up within the Diocese of Dallas? And the first part there is definitively that word, culture. We used to have it. It used to exist. And with no fault of their own, COVID stripped that of the guy before the guy I took over for. And then I came in 2023. Vocations has taken a dip. Youth ministry has taken a dip. We were just getting to the point within the diocese where The numbers that we had pre-COVID were starting to return, and we were starting to see the same amount of quantity of individuals in the pews as we were back in 2019. But all of those things that are at the heart of a culture were gone. When I first started my parish assignment as a pastoral year seminarian, I was assigned to that big parish called St. Anne's in Gala. It's the only parish when you tell someone you're from Dallas that they know. It's the largest parish, and it's the most active by far. They have roughly 12 men in the last 15 years that have become priests through that parish. And when I arrived there, the number was about 11, 9. Somewhere in that range, because there were still 4 more in the midst of formation at that time. And I wondered, what were they doing? What were they doing that was creating this atmosphere where men and women, because they had 4 religious sisters that had come out of that parish too, were creating these vocations. And as I looked for someone inviting them, maybe a priest that was just walking around every single day, walking up to every young lady, every young man saying, should you do this? You should do this. Become a priest. Become a sister. You should think about it. That wasn't happening. Instead, what I found was the gem of the parish. Their culture was this volunteerism. This culture of saying, if something has to get done, an army of people are going to show up and they're going to give their time and they're going to make sure it happens. They do a carnival every year. This actually starts this next weekend. Every single year they do a carnival that is for the entire city of Capel. And in the midst of this carnival, they have 30, 40, 50,000 people come out and come through the carnival and experience the church for the first time in the midst of the witnesses of all the volunteers that are giving their time for this. And that volunteerism, that ability for them as a parish to say, we will step up and we will do this. We will make sure that people have a moment and an ability to encounter Christ, has profoundly influenced that parish. When we were speaking about vocation committees, it was that volunteerism spirit that, for me, was what we were speaking about. It was that volunteerism of saying, it has to be everyone. It has to be all of us. In the midst of my life as a vocation director, I can tell you on one hand how many men I have directly influenced their ability to enter into seminary. It's 0. 0. 0 is the number. Because there's not a single man that's walked in my door that is because I'm the one who baptized them, I'm the one who taught them the faith, I'm the one who raised them, I'm the one who taught them language so they could understand what it means to give and share love. I'm not the one who sat there at the dinner table and taught them right from wrong. I'm not the one in their pews who told them you should think about being a priest. I'm not that person. But you are. As is all of the vocation committee members across the world now that are doing that work because vocation ministry exists. The continued work that this group will do, that vocation ministry will do on behalf of the church, is igniting that spirit of volunteerism, is igniting that culture that's so necessary and that's at the heart of being a disciple, of saying, why am I not doing this? Why am I abdicating the responsibility of saying someone might be called to holiness in a particular way, and therefore I should call them towards that path? Because as a parent, that's the initial call of raising them. As a priest, that's my desire in every homily. It's my hope when I'm encountering them in the midst of the confessional with mercy. It's what the responsibility of every teacher is. How do we lead them to a holiness of life in the midst of all of the craziness of the world? But in a particular way, things like vocation ministry and vocation committees and all these pathways that are created through the partnering that we've done with vocation ministry is necessary. It's beyond necessary. It's not possible without. It's a complete void if it didn't exist. I would still be sitting here trying to figure out, how am I going to get 200 priests in the same room within the Diocese of Dallas? What am I going to say to them? How am I going to present this? Where am I getting the numbers from? Where is the data coming from? How is it going to be presented in such a way that it gets listened to? How is it going to be heard? Especially coming from me, to one of their brother priests who just took on this role 1 year ago. How are they going to receive it? No, it needs a face. It needs someone who can step up and say, I've been doing this for a while. I've already gone down this pathway. Let me show you how. And so Rhonda, on behalf of myself and the Diocese of Dallas, thank you for all the work you've done in this ministry that you will continue to do, that your group will continue to do. And October 4th is coming soon, so we look forward to having you back at the diocese. Thank you very much.